Well, greetings, folks. Back again for the third segment of our particular lecture. I want to talk about Alexander's great reforms, Alexander II, because Alexander II is a unique person, and I think by studying him, I think you get a little bit of a better flavor of what his intention was. Alexander was confronted with a situation where he realizes that Russia is running far behind its European counterparts. And what he's going to try to do is try to modernize Russia, in a sense, trying to bring it up to speed with the other particular countries at the time. Now, we have to remember, during his reign, the Russians are going to suffer a great loss with the Crimean War. Somewhere near 250,000 soldiers will die in the Crimean War because of disease and poor sanitation and lack of medical assistance. But this will underscore that Russia's army is not as strong as one perceives or thinks. And it really exposes Russia as being really a weak country, weak for its size. And it's going to be noticed by other nations in the world. We know that the peasants during this time were working at a very low wage, very low standard of living. You can see a picture in the book on page, I believe it is 623, where you see this particular situation on tab here, where the peasants are living barefoot in the mud. And the cold, looks like cold fall weather of the Russian fall. They're out in the mud barefoot. Geez, that's terrible. And they are going to see a great difference. Now look at the other picture in 19.8, where you see a noble's estate, and look at the difference between those to the mud huts of the serfs that lived out in the field. So you're going to see a difference. So in 1855, when Alexander comes to power, one of his big things is going to try to free the 22 million serfs, and he's going to try to abolish serfdom as an institution in Russia. This is consistent to what's going on in the United States, where we see the freeing of slaves in the United States during this period of time as well. So the emancipation will be immensely accepted. However, it didn't go far enough, because it did make the peasants fully independent or self-sufficient. In general, all it did was distribute the poorest of land to them so they could farm the poorest land, and they were owed payments for their land and their freedom, and they were tied by the collective ownerships by the village communes that they had got their land from. Now, other reforms that were made during Alexander's time was to make the judicial system more independent. And in order to do this, he created local political assemblies called the Zemstva with elected officials. He tried to also encourage better schools, but encourage primary and secondary schools, by opening thousands of new schools, and he also reduced the term for military service. The lowest level of military service in the Soviet Union required somebody as an enlisted person to sign up for 15 years. It was not uncommon, though, for people to serve as many as 25 years if conscripted to the military. So this will now start to put things in a more pleasant situation and try to reduce the anxiety being felt by the poorest people. But during this period of time, he's going to experience some difficulty with Poland, which the Russians had occupied. And there's going to be a number of uprisings by the Polish during this period, much like Ireland was in rebellion for much of this period with the English. So the ability to go from an authoritarian state to a more reformed state is going to be supported by the military, but some of the reforms will not be well accepted by the nobility itself. And what we're going to see is unrest still proceeding between the different nationalities in Russia. And it's going to become a pretty big issue with people not feeling that their needs are being encouraged or met. Now, what we're also going to see here is finally, whoops, get back on my slides here, this biography about Florence Nightingale. I would encourage you to read it. Really, Florence Nightingale is the forerunner of what we would call today modern nursing. And modern nursing is going to be a very great component to our system, having the ability to have a professionalized nursing corps. And Florence's work was done during the Crimean War. She was called the Lady with the Lamp because of her ability to help soldiers. Oftentimes these hospitals were in dank places, and she was working very earnestly with British soldiers to try to provide appropriate medical and sanitary care for their experience in the Crimean. So please look at that particular segment of the book, and we'll proceed from that into chapter 20 in a short bit.